Hi everyone, here is your second recording for the time that I am gone this week. So the second recording we are working on the 4.05 lesson, Finding Volume with Unit Cubes. So our objective for this lesson is I can determine the volume of a rectangular prism with fractional side lengths. So we're going to be talking about the volume, but I want you to look at this Utah State Standard down here. This is really what we're going to be doing today. We are going to be finding the volume of a rectangular prism with unit fraction edge lengths by packing it with cubes. Okay, that's what we're going to be working on today. Next week when we come back, we'll be learning more about volume of rectangular prisms, but we are going to be talking about packing these rectangular prisms with cubes and those cubes having fractional edge lengths. So a unit cube, the definition of a unit cube is that it is a cube with edges of 1 unit long. So whatever unit you're working in, if it's feet, inches, centimeters, 1 unit long is what your unit cube is going to be measured by. And the volume of these rectangular prisms that we're going to be working with are going to depend on how many of those unit cubes you can fit inside that shape. So if I have, let me show you this box right here. So I have this little box. It is a rectangular prism. And if I had unit cubes that were 1 inch by 1 inch, I would need to see how many of those unit cubes could fill this entire box to find out what the volume is. So those unit cubes, they help us to measure and calculate the volume of our shapes. Now, volume is the amount of space that an object takes up. So all of our three-dimensional solid objects like the cylinder, this rectangular prism, this square pyramid, and this sphere, they all have volume. Today we're just going to be talking about rectangular prisms. Next week we're only going to be talking about rectangular prisms. You'll learn about volume of spheres and things like that later on in other grades. But if you look at this tissue box right here, you can see that it has 16 unit cubes that could fill that box. So the volume of that tissue box would be 16 unit cubes. All right, now I don't want to scare you off or anything, but we're using fractional edge lengths. That's what our objective told us today, that we're using fractional edge lengths. So to do that, we are going to have to review how to multiply fractions. So I wanted to go over that really quickly with you. You can pause this recording on this page if you want to look more at these multiplying fractions notes. But I am going to walk you through a couple of them really quickly just so you have a reminder, a little refresher of how to do that. We're going to start over here on the left-hand side where we are just doing regular fractions. Okay, we don't have any whole numbers in these. And so first step is that you are just going to multiply straight across your numerators and your denominators. So we have 2 times 3 is 6, 5 times 4 is 20. We do have to simplify before we can finish up. So 6 over 20 is the answer, but it's not our simplified product. So we would need to divide both the numerator and denominator by 2. They're both even numbers. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 20 divided by 2 is 10. So our final answer, our final product for 2/5 times 3/4 would be 3/10. Now let's have a look at the right side of the screen here, and we're going to be working with mixed numbers. The important thing to remember about multiplying mixed numbers is that first you have to change those mixed numbers into improper fractions. We cannot multiply with whole numbers in the mix, okay? So to change these to improper fractions, we're going to take the denominator and multiply by that whole number. So that gives me 6 on this first one. And then we're going to add 5 to that number. We're going to add our numerator to that number. So 6 times 1 is 6, plus 5 is 11. That becomes my new numerator. My denominator stays the same as it was. Okay, now I need to do 4 1/2. 4 1/2 as an improper fraction. We're going to take 2 and multiply it by 4. That gives me 8. And then I'm going to add my numerator, add 1 to 8, and that gives me 9. Okay. Denominator again stays the same. Now we are back to just multiplying fractions. So we are going to take our numerators, multiply them, and we are going to multiply our denominators. So we will have 11 times 9 is 99, and 6 times 2 is 12. Well, again, we have to simplify. We have to make sure that it is in simplest form as possible, and that means changing it back to a mixed number. So all I have to do here, fractions are just a division problem. We have 99 divided by 12, essentially is what we have. So if I take 99, divide that by 12, I get 8 wholes out of it. 12 times 8 is 96. I can't get any more whole groups of 12 out of 99. But 8 times 12 is 96. That's what I took out of my numerator. So I have to subtract that from my numerator. And I am left with 3/12. Not quite done yet, because 3/12 can also be simplified. 3 can be divided by 3, and so can 12. So I'm going to divide both by 3, and we are going to be left with 8 1/4. So that is just a quick reminder of how to multiply fractions. All right, so let's get to using these unit cubes to find our volume. You will see here at the top, it says that the number of unit cubes times the volume of one unit cube equals the volume of the prism. So let's look at this example down here so that makes a little bit more sense. This prism, this box down here, this blue box, is packed with 12 unit cubes. Okay, you can see here that this unit cube, we've taken 12 of those and filled in the box. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here on the front. We can only see on the back 1, 2, 3, 4, but we know that there's 2 that we can't see back there. So we know that there are 12 unit cubes packed into this box. So that means the volume of this cube is 12 units cubed. Okay, that's the volume of this box. But what happens when your unit cube does not measure 1 by 1 by 1, which this unit cube did? What if instead it was 1/2 by 1/2 by 1/2? That's what you're going to encounter today in your quiz. So let's have a look. Let's see how many of these 1/2 unit cubes could fit into one whole unit cube. Okay, so I have taken I've taken these 1/2 unit cubes and lined them up so they would equal 1 unit cube. So on this side, let me get a different color. On this side, now I have 2 fractional lengths of 1/2, so that would equal 1, right? 1/2 plus 1/2 is 1. And so you'll see that on every side. 1/2 plus 1/2 equals 1. 1/2 plus 1/2 equals 1. Okay, so as I look at this, I have these each unit cubes in here to equal 1 unit cube. Well, how many do I have of these 1/2-inch cubes? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 in the front, and then I have 1, 2, 3, and you can kind of see that 4th one there in the back. There are 8 1/2 unit cubes to make up one whole unit cube. Now I know you're going to say, Mrs. Bundy, how am I supposed to figure that out? Well, guess what? You don't have to. I have made you a cheat sheet for your quiz today. So pause the recording, write this down, or keep this up, this part of the recording up, when you go to take your quiz. It's going to help you a ton. Now, I know that your quiz is, or your lesson, the lesson that you went through for 4.05, it is a little bit different the way that they explain how to do this, okay? I'm trying to go back in my slides. This is not letting me go back in my slides. So let me explain something really quickly. If we were looking at that, that box that we had that was filled with 12 unit cubes, okay, we had 12 unit cubes in there. I don't think I did that. Oh, we need 3 here. However it was, there were 12 unit cubes inside that box. And if they were half-inch cubes, we know that for each one whole unit cube, I would have 8 half-inch cubes, right? So if I now had half-inch cubes filling that same size box, the volume doesn't change. It still is 12 units cubed. But if we want to know how many of those half-inch unit cubes could fit into it, this is how we would do it. We're going to take this 8 and multiply it by how many unit cubes were in there. If I had 12 unit cubes, I would multiply that by 8, because for each one of those unit cubes I would have 8 of those half-inch cubes in there. And then I would know that there would be 96 of those half-inch unit cubes filling that square, or filling that prism. Okay, so you can come back to this page, but just know this is your cheat sheet. This is going to be golden for you when you take your quiz. So let's go through and do a couple of practice, okay? We have a prism, a box, that is completely filled with 1,120 cubes that have edge lengths of 1/2 an inch, okay? So we just worked with half-inch, the half-inch cubes, and we know that there are 8 for each one hole, okay? So when they have given us how many cubes there are, and it's a fractional length, we are going to take that number of cubes and we are going to divide by how many cubes it takes to make up one hole. So half-inch, that cheat sheet told us that it takes 8 cubes to make up one hole. So we're going to divide that 1,120 cubes by 8 to get the actual volume of the prism. So 1,120 divided by 8 is going to equal 140, and our unit is inches. It tells us right here our unit is inches cubed. Okay, so that means that if we had 1-inch cubes, it would take 140 of those 1-inch cubes to fill the prism, and that gives us our actual volume. Let's look at another one like that. We have another one. A prism is completely filled with 576 cubes. And those 576 cubes are not 1-inch whole cubes. They are 1/4 inch cubes. So we have to figure out, if you go back to the cheat sheet, it tells you that 1/4 inch cubes, there are 64. There are 64 in each one whole cube. So we need to take those 64 cubes and divide it by the number of cubes that there are. So we're going to have 576 cubes divided by 64, and we are going to divide them and find out how many 1-inch cubes there are inside that prism. So 576 divided by 64 is going to equal 9. We would be able to fit 9 1-inch cubes inside of that prism, and there are 576 when there are 1/4 inch. So 9 inches cubed would be our total volume. Let's look at one more like this. A container shaped as a rectangular prism can hold 756 wooden cubes, but they are 1/3 of a foot length cubes, okay? So we're going to take the number of cubes that we have. We're going to divide it by this time. If you look at your cheat sheet, the 1/3 foot in 1 unit cube will give us 27, okay? 27 for one whole unit cube. So we're going to take our 756, divide it by 27, and that gives us 28. This time our unit is feet cubed. So if we had 1 foot cubes to fill that rectangular prism, we would need 28 of them. Now it looks a little bit different when we are given the length, width, and height of a rectangular prism, okay? So we are given the length, width, and height, and then it is filled with cubes that are 1/4 inch. So you're still going to need our cheat sheet for this one. But first, we're going to find the actual volume of our shape, okay, of our rectangular prism. And we're going to use the volume formula up here in the top right corner, length times width times height. So our length is 20. We're going to take 20 times our width of 2 times our height of 3 1/4. Here is where it comes in that we are going to be multiplying fractions. Okay, so we are multiplying these fractions. We have 2 whole numbers and we have a mixed number, so we have to turn them all into improper fractions before we can multiply them. So we can take 20, put it over 1. We can take 2 and put it over 1 because that's the fractional value of those whole numbers. And then we're going to change this mixed number into an improper fraction, just like we did at the beginning. So we're going to multiply 3 times 4 and then add 1. So 3 times 4 plus 1 is 13, and we keep the denominator the same. So we're going to multiply those. 20 times 2 is going to give me 40, and then we need to multiply by 13. So that would be 520. And then 1 times 1 times 4 is just going to leave me with a denominator of 4. So 520 divided by 4 is going to give me 130 inches cubed. That's the volume of my shape. However, my prism is filled with cubes that are 1/4 inch, 1/4 of an inch. So if you go back to your cheat sheet, you know that there are 64 1/4 inch cubes for every 1 whole cube. Okay, so what we're going to do now, instead of dividing, we are going to multiply our volume by that 64. So 130 times 64 equals, there will be 8,320 cubes to fill that rectangular prism when they are 1/4 inch length. Let's try one more of these. Okay, so Trey has plastic cubes stored in a box that measures 4 feet long, 2.5 feet wide, 2 feet tall. So we're going to find our volume again. We're going to take 4, we're going to turn it into a fraction right away because we know we're multiplying fractions already. We've got 2 1/2, so let's turn that into an improper fraction right away. So 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. We keep our denominator as 2. And then our height is 2 feet, so we're going to put that as a fraction as well. So let's multiply those. 4 times 5 is 20, times 2 is 40, and 1 times 2 times 1 is going to equal 2. So our total volume, 40 divided by 2, is going to be 20 feet cubed. But we want to know how many cubes we would be able to fit into that box if they were a 1/2 foot instead of a full foot. So if we look back at our cheat sheet, we know, remember, that 1/2 inch in length is going to equal a total of 8 to make up 1 whole unit cube. So we're going to take our volume, we're going to multiply that by how many cubes it takes to make one whole unit cube, and multiply them. So if I have 20 times 8, that is going to give me 160 total cubes that will fit in that box. Okay, so those are the kind of questions you are going to encounter on your quiz. Please make sure that you have completed all the parts of 4.05, Find the Volume with Unit Cubes lesson. I have just explained it in a different way than your lesson explains it. You may like the way that I explain it. You may not like the way that I explain it. You may understand better how K-12 explained it in the Get Ready, Learn, and Practice sections of this lesson. So please make sure that you go through and look at that lesson before you take your quiz. Okay. Also, third quarter is right upon us next week, the 23rd. These are all of the lessons as of today with the 4.05 quiz added on here that you should have completed. Please make sure that you have all of these lessons completed, as they will all be on your grade come next week. Remember that Mrs. Farnsworth is available on Friday, this Friday, at 12 o'clock. Sorry, it's changed. So if you look right here, 6th grade is at 12 o'clock. From 12 to 1 o'clock, she will have a tutor time for you to come in and get help if you need help with any of the lessons that we've worked on this week. And here is your exit ticket. The password for today is cubes. Remember, there's an S on the end. It's not just cube, it is cubes. Third quarter ends next week. Please make sure that you complete all work that you were supposed to while I am out. Remember that the 17th, Friday, you don't have any homework, but it is a makeup day, so please make sure that you use it to get caught up if you are needing that. I will write that on here. The 17th is a makeup day. I fully expect to come back seeing everybody having completed the 4.04 lesson and quiz, the 4.05 lesson and quiz, and going back and completing any lessons that have low scores or zeros. I will see you all on Monday. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week and a great weekend, and I will see you all on Monday. Bye, everyone.